The morning sun spills across our kitchen table, warming the worn wood where I set out 2 cups of tea. Between them lies a crisp envelope, sharp against the soft curl of yesterday's newspaper. I recognize the seal immediately. It's from the court. My hands tremble slightly as I open it, and there it is in black and white. We are incompetent. Our children's names hover above the judgment, and for a moment, the quiet hum of our home feels like accusation. Yet as Henry adjusts his glasses and studies the letter, I feel a strange clarity in our shared, measured movements, a precision that belies what others might see as frailty. Later, I meet Lila at the Senior Advocacy Centre. She sees something no one else does: a life meticulously lived, a mind still sharp enough to fight back. She offers help in a way I've never imagined: quiet, strategic, and full of possibility. Have you ever felt dismissed, told you no longer have a voice, or watched the people you love doubt your judgment? Stay with us to see how we turn abandonment into a quiet, unshakable declaration of dignity, one the court cannot ignore. The first light crept through our bedroom curtains the way it always did, pale gold, hesitant, testing the air before committing to the day. I lay still for a moment, listening to Henry's breathing beside me, steady as a metronome. 81 years old, and the man still woke before the alarm, every single morning. I felt the mattress shift as he sat up, heard the soft grunt he made when his knees protested the movement. "Coffee?" he asked, his voice rough with sleep. "Please." He patted my shoulder twice, our wordless good morning, and shuffled out. I closed my eyes and let myself drift in that space between sleep and waking, where the world still felt manageable. Safe. By the time I made it downstairs, Henry was already outside. Through the kitchen window, I watched him move between the tomato plants, checking leaves, pulling the odd weed. His plaid shirt hung loose on shoulders that used to fill it out, but his hands were sure, deliberate. Gardening was his meditation, the one place where he never second-guessed himself. I cracked 4 eggs into the skillet, 2 for him, 2 for me, and listened to them sizzle. The smell of butter and coffee filled the kitchen, layering over the faint scent of lavender from the sachet I kept in the drawer. Small comforts, rituals we'd built over 56 years of marriage, brick by brick, morning by morning. Henry came in just as I was plating the toast, dirt under his fingernails and a satisfied look on his face. "Tomatoes are coming along," he said, washing his hands at the sink. "Should have a decent crop by August." "You say that every year." "And I'm right every year." I smiled despite myself. We sat at the small table by the window, the one we'd bought at an estate sale in 1972. The chairs didn't match anymore. One had been replaced after David broke it horsing, around as a teenager. But they were ours. Everything in this house was ours. Chosen, maintained, lived in. "Emma called yesterday," I said, cutting into my eggs. "While you were napping." Henry's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "And?" "She wants to come by this weekend. Talk about options." "Options." He set the fork down carefully. "What kind of options?" I shrugged, though my stomach had tightened the moment Emma said the word. She didn't specify, just said she and David have been discussing things, and they think we should have a conversation. A conversation we apparently weren't invited to. The bitterness in his voice surprised me. Henry rarely let frustration show, especially when it came to the kids. But lately there'd been more calls, more questions. Emma asking if I'd paid the electric bill on time. David wanting to know why we hadn't switched to automatic deposits for Henry's pension. Small things, practical things, delivered with a tone that made me feel like a child being gently corrected. "They're worried," I said, though the words felt hollow even as I spoke them. "About what? We're fine." Were we? I thought about the argument we'd had last month over the property tax notice. I'd sworn I'd mailed the check, but apparently it never arrived. Then there was the mix-up with Henry's medication refill. He'd taken the wrong dosage for 3 days before I caught it. Minor mistakes, the kind anyone could make. But Emma had heard about both. Somehow, she always heard. "They think we're getting forgetful," I said quietly. Henry picked up his coffee, took a long sip. "Everyone forgets things, Margot. That's called being human." "I know that. You know that." "Do they?" The question hung between us, unanswered. Outside, a mourning dove called from the oak tree, 3 descending notes that sounded like a warning I couldn't quite interpret. After breakfast, Henry went back to the garden and I settled at the kitchen table with my planner. Thursdays meant reviewing the week's bills, a routine I'd kept for decades. I liked the orderliness of it. Checkbook balanced, envelopes stamped and ready for the mailbox. Control in a world that often felt increasingly beyond my grasp. The mail came at 10:30, same as always. I heard the soft thud of the slot in the front door and walked down the hallway to collect it. Catalogues, mostly. A postcard from our dentist reminding us about cleanings. Then, at the bottom of the stack, a thick manila envelope with a return address that made my breath catch. County Superior Court, Family Division. My hands shook as I tore it open. The letterhead swam before my eyes. Legal jargon, dense paragraphs that seemed designed to confuse rather than clarify. But certain phrases leaped out, stark and unmistakable. Petition for guardianship, conservatorship of person and estate, demonstrated inability to manage financial affairs, risk to health and safety, and there, near the bottom, the names of Shikfi, the petitioners, Emma Sullivan, David Monroe, our children. I read it again, then a third time, because surely I'd misunderstood, surely there was some mistake. But the words didn't change. They'd filed papers, actual legal documents declaring us incompetent, not capable of making our own decisions, not fit to manage the house we'd lived in for 40 years, the money we'd saved and budgeted and stretched through lean times and good. The kitchen felt too far away. I sank onto the bottom step of the staircase, still clutching the letter, and that's where Henry found me 10 minutes later. "Margot?" He crouched beside me, dirt still on his knees. "What happened?" I couldn't speak. I just handed him the envelope. He read slowly, methodically, the way he approached everything. His face didn't change, no shock, no anger, just that careful engineer's focus he brought to problems that needed solving. When he finished, he folded the letter with precise creases and set it on the step beside me. "They think we can't take care of ourselves," I whispered. My voice sounded strange, distant. "They told a judge we're incompetent." "I can see that." "Emma and David, our own children, Henry." He nodded, still silent. In 56 years, I'd learned to read his silences, and this one was different from his usual quiet. This was the silence of someone choosing words carefully, testing them before speaking aloud. "Do you remember what I did when the furnace broke in '98? He asked finally. The question seemed so disconnected from everything I couldn't process it. "What?" "The furnace. Middle of January. Coldest week of the year. You wanted to call the repair service right away. But I said we should understand the problem first. Remember?" I did. He'd spent 2 hours in the basement with the manual, tracing wiring, checking connections. When the technician finally arrived, Henry had already diagnosed the issue, a faulty relay switch, and negotiated a fair price for the part because he knew exactly what needed replacing. "We're going to treat this the same way," Henry said. "Understand the problem, document the facts, show the court, that they're wrong." "How can we? We keep records, Margot. You balance the checkbook every week. I manage the house maintenance. We pay our bills, take our medications, make our own decisions." His jaw tightened, the only visible sign of emotion. "We're going to prove it." Tears slid down my cheeks, hot and sudden. I wiped them away, but more came. Have you ever felt betrayed by the people you raised, the ones you sacrificed for and believed in? It's a particular kind of pain, sharp and disorienting, like the ground beneath you turned out to be nothing but paper. But Henry was already standing, already moving toward his office where he kept the filing cabinet, where he kept everything: utility bills, bank statements, medical records, tax returns. Decades of evidence that we were exactly what we'd always been: competent, careful, in control of our lives. "We'll need to respond," he said, more to himself than to me. "Formal answer to the petition. Maybe hire a lawyer." I looked at the letter again, at our children's names typed in cold, official font. "They really think we've lost our minds," I said. Henry paused in the doorway. When he turned back, his expression was calm, almost gentle, but his eyes held something harder underneath: determination, maybe even defiance. "Then we'll show them they're wrong," he said. "Not with anger, with facts." Ruth arrived that afternoon with a casserole, chicken and rice, still warm. She always brought food when things went wrong. "I heard about the legal trouble," she said at the door, avoiding my eyes. "I'm so sorry, Margot." Word traveled fast. I let her in. "My sister went through something similar," Ruth said, setting the dish down. "Her son worried about her driving. There was a whole DMV thing, took months to sort out." "We're not unsafe drivers." "No, of course not. I just meant..." She twisted the dish towel. "Sometimes it's easier to cooperate. Let them help. Emma and David love you." Love. The word sat wrong. "They petitioned to have us declared incompetent," I said, "without talking to us first." Ruth's smile went tight. "Well, family is complicated." She headed for the door. "If you need anything, call. And maybe talk to a mediator. Work it out together." After she left, I stared at the casserole. Even 20-year neighbors thought we should just give in. Henry found me there. "Jim called," he said, "suggested we hear the kids out. Said Emma probably has our best interests at heart. Everyone thinks we should roll over. Doesn't mean they're right." He studied the fridge calendar. Doctor appointments, Ruth's birthday party, the church bake sale. But it stung. Our own children against us, our friends urging compliance. How did we get here? David upset about the will, wanting equal shares when we'd left the house to Emma. Emma snapping about missing her daughter's recital, though I'd written it down wrong. Small things, normal disagreements, weren't they? "Come on," Henry said. "Let's go upstairs." In the bedroom, he pulled photo albums from the closet, 4 leather-bound volumes organized by decade. He opened to 1968. Our wedding photo. Then the house, this house, the day we bought it. Henry had negotiated the mortgage himself, understood every line. "We made that decision," he said, "together. competently. Next, David as a baby, Emma as a toddler. The year Henry got promoted, and I stayed home to manage the household and budget. We put both kids through college, I said, flipping to graduation photos. Paid off the loans within 10 years because you figured out the refinancing. You tracked every payment. More pages. Vacations we'd planned and budgeted for. The 85 kitchen renovation. Henry did half the work himself. My mother's final years when we managed her medications and coordinated hospice. We'd done that. Competently. I traced a photo from our 50th anniversary, both children smiling beside us, only 8 years ago. When did we stop being the parents who raised them and become the burden to manage? We've made good decisions our whole lives, Henry said. That doesn't just stop because we're older. I leaned against him. Outside, soft blue twilight reminded me of summer nights when the kids ran through the sprinkler while we watched. They really think we can't take care of ourselves. Henry closed the album. Then we'll prove otherwise. With facts, records, 56 years of evidence. But evidence felt cold compared to the ache in my chest. Our children, the babies I'd rocked, the teenagers I'd worried over, had decided we weren't capable anymore. Put it in writing. Asked a stranger to agree. How do you prove you're still yourself when the people who should know you best have decided you're not? Henry's hand found mine. His grip was steady, warm. We start tomorrow, he said. We gather everything. Every bill, record, decision. We show them who we are. I nodded, but the weight pressed down. The isolation, the assumption that compliance was wisdom, the quiet fear that maybe everyone else could see something we couldn't. But no, I wouldn't let that thought take root. Not while Henry sat clear-headed and determined. Not while 56 years of partnership sat documented in albums and file cabinets and these very walls. We'd face the court. We'd face our children. We'd prove we were still ourselves, even if no one else believed it. The Senior Advocacy Center sat in a low brick building 3 blocks from our house. I'd driven past it 1,000 times, never imagining I'd walk through those doors. Henry held the door for me. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed over beige linoleum. A bulletin board advertised bingo nights and Medicare workshops. The receptionist, a woman with kind eyes and silver hair, smiled when we approached. We need help, I said. My voice sounded smaller than I'd intended. She handed us a clipboard. Fill this out. Someone will be with you shortly. We sat in plastic chairs near a window. The form asked about income, assets, legal issues. I wrote carefully, aware that every word might be scrutinized. Henry read over my shoulder, checking my answers like he always did. 20 minutes later, a door opened. Margot and Henry Fletcher? The woman who emerged was young, mid-30s maybe, with dark hair pulled into a practical ponytail. She wore slacks and a cardigan, sensible flats. A canvas bag bulged with folders and a laptop. I'm Lila Torres, paralegal. She shook our hands firmly. Come on back. Her office was barely bigger than a closet. Files stacked on every surface, a desk lamp tilted at an odd angle. But the chair she offered me was comfortable, and she poured us water from a pitcher without asking. So, she said, settling into her seat. Tell me what's happening. Kim Kyung handed her the court letter. While she read, I studied her face. Most people reacted with pity or awkward sympathy. Lila's expression stayed neutral, focused, professional. Guardianship petition, she said, filed by your children, citing incompetence to manage finances and healthcare. She looked up. What's your side? Henry leaned forward. We're not incompetent. We pay our bills on time. We manage our medications. We make decisions together, same as we've done for 56 years. Any cognitive issues? Memory problems? I forget things sometimes, I admitted. But nothing serious. I write everything down. Medical appointments? Never miss one. Lila tapped her pen against the desk. What triggered this? Your kids just wake up one day and decide you're incompetent? I hesitated. We argued about the will. David wanted equal shares. We'd planned to leave the house to Emma because she has young children. David got upset. And Emma? I missed her daughter's recital. Wrote the date wrong in my calendar. She said I was getting confused. One missed event? One. Lila sat back. May I see your records? Bills, bank statements, medical files. Whatever you have. Henry pulled out the folder we'd brought. 3 months of statements, organized by date. Paid bills highlighted in yellow. Appointment cards clipped together. Lila flipped through them slowly. Her eyebrows rose. This is meticulous, she said. Color-coded, cross-referenced. She looked at me. You did this? I've always kept records. Most people don't do it this well at any age. She spread the documents across her desk. Here's what I see. You're organized. You pay bills on time. You attend medical appointments. You track medications. None of this suggests incompetence. Then why did the court accept the petition? Because courts hear a lot of horror stories. Elder abuse, neglect, genuine cognitive decline. When adult children petition, judges often assume they're acting in good faith, trying to help. She tapped the letter. The system is set up to protect vulnerable seniors. Sometimes that means it overcorrects. Henry's jaw tightened. We're not vulnerable. I can see that, but you'll need to prove it, formally. We can't afford a lawyer, I said. Not the kind this needs. Lila leaned forward, elbows on the desk. Then we do it differently. Forget lawyers for now. We gather evidence, community witnesses, documentation, proof of competence. We build a grassroots case. Show the court who you really are. How? Start with your daily life. I'll help you document everything. Bills, appointments, decisions. We'll get statements from neighbors, friends, your doctors. We'll show a pattern of independent, competent living. Her eyes brightened. We'll make it impossible to ignore. For the first time since the letter arrived, something loosened in my chest. Not quite hope, too fragile for that, but possibility. You think we can fight this? Henry asked. I think you too. I think shouldn't have to, Lila said. But yes, I think if we're strategic, if we're thorough, we can show the court the truth. She pulled a fresh legal pad from her bag, clicked her pen. Let's start with your routine. Walk me through a typical day. Henry began. I wake at 6, make coffee, check the thermostat. Arthritis acts up if it's too cold. Then the garden. Even in winter there's pruning, planning, checking soil. How long? An hour, 2 if I'm planting. Lila turned to me. I make breakfast while he's out. Oatmeal, fruit, toast. Then medications, blood pressure, cholesterol, vitamin D. I keep a chart on the fridge, check off each one. Bring that chart next time. She made notes. What else? Bills on Mondays, balance the checkbook Fridays, files for utilities, insurance, medical, everything labeled. Grocery shopping? Wednesdays, I list, use coupons. Henry pushes the cart. I check prices. For an hour, we detailed our lives. Doctor appointments scheduled months ahead. Medications never missed. Finances tracked to the penny. The house clean, maintained, safe. Lila sat back. You're more organized than most people half your age. Then why don't they see it? Because they're not looking. She tapped her pad. They see age and assume decline. One mistake becomes a pattern. We're changing that. She pulled out a checklist. Gather every document showing competence. Bank statements, utility bills, medical records. Photograph your organizational systems. That fridge chart, your filing cabinet, garden journal. How did you know about that? Henry mentioned planning. People who plan keep records. She smiled. Photograph everything. Write down your daily routines. Show consistency. Henry frowned. Isn't that invasive? Yes, but the alternative is letting the court decide based on assumptions. This way, you control the narrative. I looked at Henry. Privacy versus autonomy. Exposure versus erasure. We'll do it. That evening, Henry brought down the filing cabinet. I spread folders across the dining table. Insurance, medical, utilities, taxes. Each labelled in my handwriting, dates in the corners. January 15th, Henry said, holding up a receipt. Screws for the garden gate, 37 cents. You kept that? You said keep receipts. For taxes, Henry. You said all of them. I laughed, actually laughed. The sound felt rusty but real. Years of careful records, mortgage payments on time, tax returns without error, insurance letters thanking us for prompt premiums, small, mundane proof stacking higher. Henry's garden journal, a decade of planting dates, weather notes, bed layouts. June 2019, tomatoes thriving, beans need water. September 2021, first frost, covered herbs. This shows planning, I said, memory, detail. I photographed the medication chart, each box checked. The appointment calendar, doctors in blue, social events green, tasks black. The labelled cleaning supplies above the washer. Henry photographed his tool bench, every tool in place. The compost bin he'd built, still functioning after 15 years. We worked methodically, and in the quiet rhythm, something shifted. We're good at this, Henry said suddenly. At what? Life, managing. We forgot it wasn't automatic. Evidence covered every surface. 56 years of decisions, adding up to a life well lived and carefully maintained. They underestimated us, I said. Yes. For the first time since the letter, I felt something beyond fear or betrayal. Determination, resolve. We weren't disappearing quietly. We weren't letting assumptions erase decades of capable living. We'd fight back, not with rage, but with receipts, photographs, journals, meticulous proof of who we really were. More folders in the attic, Henry said. Old tax returns. Should I get them? Get them all. Lila arrived at 8 the next morning, carrying a thermos and a leather notebook that looked older than she was. New routine, she announced, settling at our kitchen table. Every day, we review what you've gathered, identify gaps, and plan next steps. Structured, methodical, like you already live. Henry poured coffee. I set out mugs, noting how normal it felt, hosting someone who believed us. Lila opened her notebook. Yesterday, you compiled financial records. Today, we need witness statements. People who interact with you regularly and can testify to your competence. Who would do that? Neighbors, your mail carrier, the pharmacist, anyone who sees your daily life. Henry frowned. We don't want to burden people. You're not. You're asking them to tell the truth. She looked between us. Who knows you best? Ruth next door, I said. We've been neighbors 30 years. Perfect. We'll visit her this morning. Just walk over? Yes, fresh air, exercise, shows mobility and social engagement. Lila smiled. Everything counts now. Ruth answered on the second knock, flour dusting her apron. Margot, Henry, come in, I'm making bread. She stopped, reading our faces. What's wrong? We need to ask you something, I said. We sat in her sunny kitchen while the bread dough rose. I explained the petition, the accusations, the court date looming. Ruth's expression shifted from confusion to outrage. They said you're incompetent. Yes. That's absurd. You balance my checkbook when mine gets messy. You fixed my porch light last month, Henry. Would you tell the court that? Lila asked gently. Absolutely. Ruth stood, pulled out a notepad. What do you need? Lila guided her through details. Times she'd seen us gardening, shopping, managing tasks. Conversations proving clarity and memory. Small observations accumulating into a picture the court needed to see. You organize the neighborhood watch schedule, Ruth said to me. You coordinate snow removal every winter, Henry. You're the most capable people on this block. Hearing it aloud, not from ourselves, but from someone who witnessed our lives, cracked something open inside me. Thank you, I whispered. Ruth gripped my hand. We'll fight this, all of us. Walking home, Henry moved slower than usual, not from fatigue, from thought. We stopped noticing what we do, he said. It became invisible. To them too. No, they chose not to see it. Lila walked beside us, quiet, letting the words settle. Back at the house, she pulled out a schedule. Tomorrow, the pharmacy. Wednesday, your doctor's office. Ask them to document your medication adherence. Thursday, the bank. That's a lot of walking, Henry said. Can you manage it? Of course. Then it also proves mobility and stamina. She smiled. Every action serves double duty now. That afternoon, I returned to a task I'd abandoned when the letter arrived, paying bills. The stack sat on the desk, envelopes crisp and waiting. Before, I'd felt paralyzed. What if I made a mistake? What if they used it against us? But Ruth's words lingered. You balance my checkbook when mine gets messy. I pulled out the checkbook, the calculator, the stamps. Henry sat across from me, sorting mail, electric bill, phone, water, each one logged, checked twice, envelope addressed in my careful script. November 13th, I said, dating the check. $63.42. Henry recorded it in the register, our handwriting side by side, like always. We'd done this hundreds of times, thousands, the rhythm familiar, comforting. When the last envelope was stamped, I stacked them neatly. Ready for the mailbox? Henry asked. Ready. He stood, stretched. I'll check the garden while I'm out. Frost coming tonight. Need to cover the herbs. I'll start dinner. Such ordinary sentences, such profound reclaiming of normal life. Lila glanced up from her notes. You two just demonstrated financial management, task planning, and household coordination in under an hour. We were just living, exactly objesk. She made a note. Tomorrow we document it. Photographs, written log, timestamps. Make the invisible visible. That evening, over tea, Lila reviewed the day. One witness statement. Bills paid. Garden maintained. Tomorrow we add more. How long do we keep this up? Henry asked. Until the hearing. Then beyond. This isn't just for court. It's rebuilding confidence in yourselves. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug. For the first time in weeks, I'd moved through a day without fear paralyzing every decision. Small acts, repeated, witnessed, recorded, our lives made visible again. The meeting was Lila's idea, though I wished we could have avoided it. They'll see you face to face, she'd said. See the work you're doing. Sometimes proximity changes perspective. I wasn't convinced, but Henry agreed. So we set it up. Neutral ground, the community centre conference room, Wednesday at 2. Emma arrived first, heels clicking across the linoleum. David followed, briefcase in hand like this was a business transaction. They didn't hug us. Mom, Dad, Emma nodded, sitting across the table. Lila? Thank you for coming, Lila said evenly. I tried to read Emma's face. My daughter, who I'd rocked through nightmares and taught to read. Now she looked at me like I was a stranger, or worse, a problem. We've made significant progress this week, Lila began, sliding documents across the table. Witness statements, financial records, medical documentation. Who put you up to this? David interrupted, looking at me. Put us up to what? Henry's voice was steady. This resistance. You hire a paralegal, start collecting papers, making trouble. David gestured dismissively at Lila's files. Someone's feeding you ideas. My chest tightened. We're making our own decisions. Emma leaned forward. Are you? Or is she? She pointed at Lila. Mum, you've always been trusting. Too trusting. This woman sees vulnerable seniors and... Stop. The word came out sharper than I intended. Lila is helping us, not manipulating us. You can't see it. Emma's tone shifted, softer now, almost pitying. It stung worse than anger. That's the whole point, Mum. You don't recognize when someone's taking advantage. Henry's hand found mine under the table, squeezed once. What advantage? I asked. We're paying Lila nothing. She volunteers her time. For now, David said. Wait until the bills start coming. Legal fees, consultation charges. I'm a volunteer, Lila said quietly. At a non-profit advocacy centre. There are no fees. David ignored her, focused on Henry. Dad, be reasonable. We're trying to protect you both. The guardianship ensures you're safe, that finances are managed properly, that medical decisions, we manage fine. Henry's jaw tightened. Always have. You missed 3 doctor appointments last year, Emma countered. 2, I corrected, and we rescheduled both. You argued with the pharmacy about medication dosages because they filled the prescription wrong. Heat rose in my face. The doctor confirmed it. I was right. Emma glanced at David. Some silent sibling communication I couldn't decode. You're proving our point, David said. Getting defensive, combative. These aren't the parents we know. The absurdity of it hit me. Defend ourselves, and we're combative. Stay silent, and we're incompetent. There was no winning-tag move in their eyes. We've collected evidence, Lila interjected calmly, pulling out a folder. Daily activity logs, financial records spanning 6 months, witness statements from neighbours, medical providers, community members, all documenting competence and independent living. Emma barely glanced at the papers. Coached performances. You're telling them what to do, what to say. I'm documenting what they already do. Please. Emma's voice turned sharp. You think a judge will be impressed by garden journals and grocery receipts? This is about legal standards, medical assessments, real criteria. Which they meet, Lila said. According to you. The room felt smaller, airless. I looked at my children, grown, successful, certain, and barely recognized them. Why are you doing this? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Emma's expression flickered. Surprise, guilt. It vanished too quickly to tell. We're protecting you. From what? Yourselves. David closed his briefcase with a decisive click. From making mistakes you can't recover from people like her, he gestured at Lila, who prey on elderly confusion. I'm not confused, I said. You don't think you are. That's the problem. Henry stood abruptly, chair scraping. This meeting is over. Emma stood too. Dad, you've said enough. His voice carried an edge I rarely heard. We'll see you in court. They left without another word. The silence after Emma and David left felt thick enough to choke on. Lila packed up her files methodically, giving us space. Henry stood at the window, hands in his pockets, staring at the parking lot where our children's cars had just pulled away. They really believe it, I said softly, that we're not capable. Or they want to believe it. Henry turned. Easier to justify what they're doing. Lila zipped her bag. We need witnesses, people who can speak to your daily competence, your decision-making, your independence. Who'd do that? The question came out defeated. Most of our friends are the same age. The court will dismiss them as credible observers, Lila finished. Age doesn't disqualify testimony. Honesty does. Consistency does. She met my eyes. Do you have people who see you regularly? Who can speak to specific instances? I thought of Ruth next door, who borrowed our hedge trimmer last month and commented on how neat Henry kept the shed. Mr. Jacobs down the street, who'd helped us review our tax returns in March and praised our record keeping. A few, I said. Then let's start there. Ruth arrived Thursday morning with a plate of cookies and nervous energy. I don't know what to say in court, she admitted, settling at our kitchen table. I've never testified before. You won't need to perform, Lila assured her. Just tell the truth. What do you observe about Margot and Henry's daily life? Ruth glanced at us, then back to Lila. They're normal? Independent? I don't understand what I'm supposed to prove. Start with specifics. Lila had her notepad out. When's the last time you interacted with them? Tuesday. Henry trimmed our hedges. I asked him to since Jim's back is acting up. He showed up at 8 sharp, finished in an hour, refused payment. Ruth smiled, stubborn as ever. That's good, Lila said, writing. What else? Margot helps with the neighborhood newsletter, proofreads every issue, catches typos our younger editor misses. Ruth looked at me. You found that incorrect date last month, remember? About the community meeting? I nodded. I remembered Mother's coffee clatch 30 years ago. Women gathered around our old Formica table, voices overlapping, laughter cutting through worry. Ruth's presence felt like that, solid and familiar. Those are concrete examples, Lila said. Attention to detail, reliability, community engagement. Can you think of more? Ruth spent the next 20 minutes recounting moments I'd barely registered as significant. The time I noticed her porch light burnt out and left a replacement bulb. Henry's careful snow shoveling pattern that kept the whole sidewalk safe. Our participation in last year's block party planning. You're documenting competence without realizing it, Lila said gently. That's what makes your testimony powerful. Mr. Jacobs came Friday afternoon, reading glasses perched on his nose, carrying a leather portfolio. I brought copies, he announced, spreading financial documents across our dining table. Your tax returns, account statements, household budgets, all organized, accurate, properly filed. I've worked with hundreds of clients over 40 years. You two are more meticulous than most people half your age. Henry straightened slightly. Pride, maybe, or relief. Can you speak to specific instances? Lila asked. March 15th. Mr. Jacobs didn't need notes. Margot caught a discrepancy in their investment statement, a dividend that posted twice. Called the broker, got it corrected within 48 hours. Most people never notice those errors. They dismissed it as luck, I said quietly. Emma and David called it a fluke. Flukes don't happen consistently. Mr. Jacobs pushed his glasses up. You've managed your finances independently for 6 decades. Clean credit, no late payments, strategic decisions about retirement accounts. He looked at Lila. I'll testify to all of it. By Sunday evening, we had 4 witnesses committed. Ruth, Mr. Jacobs, Pastor Mike from the community chapel, and Carol from the library where I'd volunteered until last year. Lila spread their names across her notepad. This is your network, people who see you clearly. I stared at the list. 4 names against my children's petition felt both substantial and fragile. Is it enough? Henry asked. It's a start, Lila said. We have 2 weeks until the preliminary hearing. We'll need documentation to support each testimony, written statements, and 2 weeks? My stomach dropped. The court moves fast on guardianship cases. Lila's expression softened. But we're ready, or we will be. Henry reached for my hand. His palm was warm, steady. We'll be ready, he echoed. I wanted to believe him. The witnesses felt like roots spreading beneath us, anchoring us when everything else shifted. But 2 weeks, 14 days to prove we deserved to keep living our own lives. How do you quantify a lifetime of competence in 2 weeks? Monday morning, Henry couldn't open the pickle jar. I watched him struggle at the counter, his knuckles swollen and red, the glass slipping in his grip. He set it down carefully, flexed his fingers, tried again. Let me, I said. I've got it. He didn't. After the 3rd attempt, he stepped back, jaw tight. It's just a jar, I offered. It's not just a jar. His voice came out flat. They'll say I can't manage basic tasks. He was right. That pickle jar would become evidence if Emma or David walked in. Proof of declining capability, physical incompetence, the need for intervention. I opened it myself, the lid releasing with a soft pop, and neither of us said anything more. By Wednesday, my own body betrayed me. I'd been organizing files all morning, tax documents, medical records, receipts sorted by category, when the fatigue hit like a wave. Not sleepiness exactly, more like every cell in my body suddenly weighed twice what it should. I sat down at the kitchen table just for a moment. Henry found me there an hour later, head resting on my folded arms, the heating bill still clutched in one hand. Margot? I'm fine. I lifted my head, blinking, just resting my eyes. But the clock on the wall said 2:15, and I'd sat down at 1:15. An hour vanished while papers waited, while deadlines ticked closer. You need to pace yourself, Henry said gently. We don't have time to pace. That afternoon, I missed a doctor's appointment I'd written in the calendar 3 times. Carol called at 3:30, worried. I was never late. Henry rescheduled it while I stared at my own handwriting, stark and clear on the wall calendar. How had I forgotten? Lila noticed Thursday. "You're both exhausted," she said, watching Henry wince as he reached for a file box. "When did you last rest?" "We rest at night," I said. "I mean really rest. A full day. No evidence gathering, no organization, just, we can't afford a full day." Henry's tone was sharper than usual. "The hearing is 9 days away." Lila studied us both, then pulled out her phone. "We're changing strategy." She spent the next hour showing us apps I'd never heard of, document scanners that turned paper into digital files, voice recorders for witness statements, cloud storage that backed up everything automatically. "You photograph the receipt," she demonstrated, holding her phone over a grocery slip. "The app reads it, categorizes it, timestamps it. Takes 10 seconds instead of 10 minutes. "I don't understand technology," I admitted. "You'll learn. It's easier than you think." She handed me her phone. "Try." I held it awkwardly over a utility bill, fingers uncertain on the screen. The phone made a soft clicking sound, and suddenly the bill appeared on the display, sharper than the physical paper. "See, you just documented evidence in 5 seconds." Henry leaned closer, interested despite himself. By Friday, we'd scanned 60 documents using Lila's method. My hands ached less, and the dining table wasn't buried under paper mountains anymore. But that same afternoon, Emma's lawyer called. "We have concerns," the voice said, professional and cold. "Your father was observed struggling to complete basic physical tasks. Your mother missed a medical appointment. These patterns support our petition." "Those were isolated incidents," I said, gripping the phone. "They're part of a documented pattern of decline." After I hung up, I told Henry what they'd said. "They're watching us," he said quietly. "Not just watching, waiting." Every stumble became ammunition, every moment of human tiredness transformed into proof of incompetence. How do you live normally when normal becomes evidence against you? That evening, Lila taught us how to record voice memos, simple observations about decisions we made, tasks we completed, moments of clarity and competence. "Document the good days, too," Lila instructed. "Not just the struggles, the wins matter." I practiced speaking into my phone, feeling ridiculous at first. Friday, October 20th. Balanced the checkbook. All entries match bank statements. Paid 3 bills on time. Simple words, ordinary tasks. But Lila was right. They mattered now. Saturday morning, I was sorting through the filing cabinet in the spare bedroom when I found it. The ledger. Dark green cloth cover, edges worn soft from years of handling. I pulled it out carefully, recognizing Henry's precise handwriting on the first page. January 1975. "Henry," I called. He appeared in the doorway, leaning slightly on his cane. "What is it?" "Your financial ledger, the one you kept before we switched to digital." He took it from my hands, thumbing through pages filled with entries. Mortgage payments, car repairs, medical expenses, grocery budgets. 48 years of meticulous record-keeping, every decision documented in blue ink. "I forgot about this," he murmured. I hadn't. I remembered him sitting at this same desk every Sunday evening, updating entries by lamplight while I read beside him. That ledger represented decades of competent financial management, proof that we'd navigated mortgages, investments, retirement planning, and healthcare decisions without faltering. "Lila needs to see this," I said. Monday afternoon, Lila sat at our kitchen table with the ledger open, tears in her eyes. This is incredible. She turned another page, studying the neat columns. You tracked every major financial decision for nearly 5 decades. Medical expenses, home repairs, retirement contributions, it's all here. Is it useful? Henry asked. Useful? It's devastating to their case. She photographed page after page with her phone. Your children claim you can't manage finances, but this proves decades of responsible decision-making. No missed payments, no erratic spending, no signs of impaired judgment. I felt something shift in my chest. Not quite hope, but close. Validation, maybe. Recognition that our lives weren't the fragile, incompetent narrative Emma and David had constructed. There's more, I said quietly. I'd spent Sunday afternoon pulling together medical records I'd organized over the years. Vaccination records, prescription histories, wellness visit summaries. Every document showed active participation in our healthcare. Questions asked, second opinions sought, treatments researched. Lila spread them across the table. You've been managing your own medical decisions independently for years. These notes show informed consent, advanced directives you drafted together, even advocacy when doctors made errors. That was just being responsible, Henry said. Exactly. Lila looked at us both. That's what competence looks like. Not perfection, responsibility. For the first time since the letter arrived, I felt the weight lift slightly. Our lives, once dismissed as evidence of decline, now spoke for themselves. Maybe they'd been speaking all along, and we just needed someone to listen. Wednesday morning, Lila called. Her voice sounded different, tight, worried. The court ordered a surprise financial audit, she said. They want to review all accounts, transactions, and documents within 72 hours. My hand tightened on the phone. Why? Emma and David's lawyer requested it. They're claiming the ledger and records were fabricated or that someone else managed them for you. That's not true. I know, but we have to prove it. Fast. Henry appeared beside me, reading my expression. I put the phone on speaker. What do they need? He asked. Everything. Bank statements, tax returns, investment portfolios. They'll cross-reference every entry in your ledger against official records. If there are discrepancies, there won't be, Henry interrupted. I was careful. I believe you, but we have 3 days to compile decades of documentation, and if we miss anything, or if there's even a small error. Lila trailed off. I looked at the calendar. 3 days, 72 hours to prove our entire financial history. We'll do it, I said. After we hung up, Henry sat down heavily at the table, staring at the ledger still open between us. What if I made mistakes? He whispered. What if something doesn't match? I took his hand. Then we'll explain it. We'll show them you're human, not incompetent. But doubt crept in as I spoke. Would the court see the difference? Or would a single clerical error from 1987 become proof that we couldn't be trusted now? The ledger sat between us, pages filled with our careful history, either our salvation or our undoing, depending on what the audit revealed. Thursday evening, the auditor arrived. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with wire-rimmed glasses and a leather portfolio that looked more expensive than our couch. She set up at the dining table, spreading documents across the surface Henry had polished just that morning. This shouldn't take long, she said, though her tone suggested otherwise. Henry sat beside her, answering questions in his careful, methodical way. I hovered nearby, bringing tea, neither of them touched, watching as she cross-referenced bank statements against ledger entries. The first hour passed in tense silence. Then she paused, tapping her pen against a page. Here, July 1998. Your ledger shows a medical payment of $247, but the hospital bill is $274. My stomach dropped. That's... Henry leaned closer, squinting at the faded ink. I must have transposed the numbers. Mm-hmm. She made a note. And here, April 2003. You recorded a utility payment on the 15th, but the bank statement shows it cleared on the 17th. I recorded when I mailed it, Henry explained. Not when it cleared. Another note. Another mark against us. By the time she left, she'd flagged 17 discrepancies across 48 years. Small things, transposed digits, dates recorded differently, a few missed decimal points. The kind of errors anyone might make. But I knew how it would look in court. Friday morning, Emma called. "Mum, we received the preliminary audit report." Her voice carried that false concern I'd learned to recognize. "There are errors, multiple errors." "Clerical mistakes," I said. "Small ones." "Small? Mum, you recorded payments wrong, mixed up dates, got dollar amounts confused. That's exactly what we've been worried about. You can't manage these things anymore." Heat rose in my chest. Your father kept that ledger for nearly 50 years. 17 mistakes in half a century isn't incompetence, Emma. It's being human. The court won't see it that way. Neither will the judge. She paused. We're going to request stricter oversight. Maybe it's time to consider assisted living, somewhere with staff who can... I hung up. My hands shook as I set the phone down. Henry appeared in the doorway, reading my expression. "Emma?" he asked quietly. I nodded. He sat beside me on the couch, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. I kept seeing those 17 errors, those tiny marks the auditor had made. 48 years reduced to a list of mistakes. "Maybe they're right," Henry whispered. "Maybe I'm not as careful as I thought." "Don't." I turned to face him. "Don't let them make you doubt yourself. Those errors don't prove incompetence. They prove you're human, that you've been managing our finances for decades without help." But what if the judge? The judge will see what's really there. Or they won't. But I refuse to let Emma and David rewrite our story because of a few transposed numbers. Henry's jaw tightened. I won't either. We sat together in the quiet house, holding on to that resolve, even as fear whispered at the edges. When Lila arrived that afternoon, she found us at the kitchen table, surrounded by documents. She took one look at our faces and sat down. "You heard about the audit?" "Emma called," I said. "They're using it to push for stricter control." Lila pulled out her laptop. "I've been reviewing the auditor's notes. 17 discrepancies across 48 years. You know what that average is?" We waited. 0.35 errors per year. Less than one mistake, annually over nearly 5 decades. She turned the screen toward us. I pulled data on professional accounting firms. Their average error rate for personal financial management is 0.8%. Yours is 0.04%. Henry leaned forward. "What does that mean?" "It means you're more accurate than most professionals. Those 17 errors, they're not evidence of incompetence. They're proof of sustained, careful management over an extraordinary period of time." I felt something loosen in my chest. "Context matters," Lila continued. "A few transposed numbers don't negate decades of responsible decision-making. The court needs to see the full picture, not just the errors your children's lawyer wants to highlight." "Will they?" I asked. See the full picture? That's what we're going to show them. She pulled out a folder. We document every decision you made correctly, every payment on time, every medical choice informed, every investment sound. We show that competence isn't perfection, it's consistency over time. Henry studied the documents spread before us. You really think this will work? I think, Lila said carefully, that the truth is on your side. Now we just have to make sure the court hears it. The courtroom smelled like old wood and stale air. I sat beside Henry at the defendant's table. Though we weren't defendants, not really. We were parents whose children thought they knew better. Judge Morrison, a woman in her mid-50s with sharp eyes and silver hair pulled back tight, reviewed the documents before her. Emma and David sat across the aisle with their lawyer, Mr. Patterson, a man in an expensive suit who'd probably never balanced a checkbook by hand in his life. Lila leaned close. Remember, just answer the questions. Stay calm, stay factual. Your life speaks for itself. The judge looked up. Mrs. Carter, you may proceed with your testimony. I stood, steadier than I expected, walked to the witness stand, placed my hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth, as if I'd ever done anything else. Lila approached with a folder. Mrs. Carter, can you tell the court how you and your husband have managed your household finances? Together, I said. For 53 years, Henry kept the main ledger. I managed the monthly bills, tracked medical expenses, handled correspondence with insurance companies and banks. And did you use any professional help? Accountants, financial advisors? Not regularly. We consulted a tax preparer twice, once in 1987 when we sold property, once in 2003 when Henry retired. Otherwise, we managed ourselves. Lila placed a document on the projector. Our mortgage history appeared on the screen behind me. Can you walk the court through this? I recognized it immediately. We bought our house in 1971, 30-year mortgage at 7.5%. We refinanced in 1985 when rates dropped, paid it off in 1998, 3 years early. And these payments? Lila indicated the rows of dates and amounts. All on time. Never missed one. She pulled up another document. Medical expenses, 1975 to present. Can you explain this record? Every doctor visit, prescription, procedure. We tracked everything for tax purposes and insurance claims. Filed our own paperwork until 2019, when the forms went mostly digital. Then our neighbor's granddaughter then helped us scan and submit online. Did you understand the medical decisions you were making? Every one. I looked at the judge. When Henry needed knee surgery in 2004, I researched 3 surgeons, compared success rates, recovery protocols. When I was diagnosed with osteoporosis in 2011, I evaluated medication options with my doctor, asked about side effects and long-term outcomes. We've never made a medical choice without understanding exactly what it meant. Patterson stood. Objection, Your Honor. Mrs. Carter's testimony is anecdotal. The audit shows clear errors in record keeping. The audit, Lila countered, shows 17 minor clerical errors across 48 years, 0.04% error rate, lower than most professional firms. Judge Morrison raised a hand. I'll allow the testimony to continue. Mr. Patterson, you'll have your cross-examination. Lila pulled up the next document. Let's talk about the errors the auditor found. Can you explain this one from March 1989? I squinted at the screen. I recorded the check date as the 3rd, but it cleared on the 5th. I wrote down when we mailed it, not when the bank processed it. The amount was correct. The payment was on time. I just noted the date differently. And this one from 2007? Transposed two numbers in the account total. $63 instead of $36. Caught it the next month and corrected it. Did any of these errors result in missed payments, overdrafts, or financial harm? Never. Lila nodded. Your witness, Mr. Patterson. He approached with a thin smile. Mrs. Carter, you claim you've managed your finances competently. But isn't it true that you've recently struggled with basic tasks? Forgotten appointments, misplaced important documents? I missed one doctor's appointment, I said evenly. In 2022. The office called to remind me, and I rescheduled. As for documents, I misplaced my insurance card last fall. Found it 2 days later in my coat pocket. But these incidents concerned your children enough to seek legal intervention. These incidents, I said, meeting his eyes, are things that happen to everyone. They don't make me incompetent. They make me 78. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. The judge's expression remained neutral, but I thought I saw something shift in her gaze. Patterson stepped back. No further questions. Lila stood. The defense calls Dr. Rebecca Saunders. I turned in my seat. Dr. Saunders was my primary care physician, had been for 12 years. She walked to the stand in her usual brisk, no-nonsense manner, white hair pulled into a neat bun, reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. Dr. Saunders, Lila began, how long have you been treating Mrs. Carter? Since 2012. I've seen her for annual checkups, osteoporosis management, and minor acute issues, colds, a sprained wrist, seasonal allergies. And in your professional opinion, is she competent to make her own medical decisions? Absolutely. Dr. Saunders spoke to the judge directly. Mrs. Carter understands her conditions, follows treatment plans, asks informed questions, and makes thoughtful decisions about her care. She's one of my most engaged patients. Can you provide a specific example? Last year, we discussed whether to start a new osteoporosis medication. She asked about efficacy rates, side effects, interactions with her other prescriptions. She requested peer-reviewed studies, read them, then scheduled a follow-up appointment to discuss her decision. That's not the behavior of someone who lacks capacity. Lila pulled up my medical chart. And what about the missed appointment Mr. Patterson mentioned? Dr. Saunders glanced at Patterson with barely concealed disdain. One missed appointment in 12 years. The office rescheduled her within 2 days. If we declared every patient who missed an appointment incompetent, we'd have guardianship proceedings for half the population. A few people in the gallery chuckled quietly. Judge Morrison's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. Your witness, Lila said. Patterson approached. Dr. Saunders, isn't it true that cognitive decline can be subtle? That patients may appear competent in structured settings but struggle at home? It can be, she acknowledged. But I've seen Mrs. Carter in both structured and unstructured contexts. She manages complex medication schedules, tracks symptoms, coordinates care with specialists. Those tasks require executive function, memory, and judgment, all of which she demonstrates consistently. But you can't observe her every moment. How can you be certain she's managing independently at home? Because I review her records. She fills prescriptions on schedule, attends follow-ups, reports symptoms accurately. Her husband corroborates her accounts, and their observations align. I've also received notes from home health aides who've visited for post-procedure care. Every report confirms independent management. Patterson frowned. No further questions? Lila called the next witness. The defense calls Judge Eleanor Hartman retired. An older woman entered. Must have been in her 70s herself. Silver hair framing a face that had clearly weathered decades of courtroom battles. She moved with the quiet authority of someone who'd spent a lifetime making decisions that mattered. "Judge Hartman," Lila said, "you served on the family court bench for 26 years. How many guardianship cases did you oversee?" "Approximately 200. "And you followed this case closely. Why?" Hartman's gaze swept the room, landing briefly on Emma and David before settling on the judge. "Because I've seen this pattern too many times. Adult children frightened by their parents aging, mistaking normal age-related changes for incompetence. They seek guardianship out of fear, sometimes out of control, occasionally out of financial interest." Patterson started to rise. "Your Honor." "I'll allow it," Judge Morrison said quietly. "Continue, Judge Hartman." "I reviewed the petition and supporting documents. The so-called evidence of incompetence, minor clerical errors, one missed appointment, disagreements over estate planning, would never have met the threshold for guardianship in my courtroom. The standard is clear incapacity, not imperfection." "What would you look for in determining competence?" Lila asked. "Consistent decision-making ability, understanding of consequences, capacity to communicate preferences, evidence of independent living. The Carters demonstrate all of these." She leaned forward slightly. "I've also observed something troubling in this petition. The adult children cite their parents' refusal to follow their advice as evidence of impaired judgment. That's not incompetence. That's autonomy. And autonomy doesn't expire at 70. Silence filled the courtroom. Henry reached for my hand under the table, squeezed gently. I squeezed back, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Not just hope, but power. Our power. The kind that comes from knowing you've been heard. "Your witness," Lila said. Patterson stood, but his movements lacked the confidence he'd carried all week. "Judge Hartman, you retired 5 years ago. Isn't it possible that standards have evolved since your time on the bench?" "Standards for capacity haven't changed," Hartman replied evenly. "What's changed is how often guardianship is misused as a tool for family control rather than protection. I've consulted on elder rights cases since retirement precisely because I've seen the damage overreach causes. You weren't present for the Carters' day-to-day life. How can you assess?" "I assessed 200 cases using the same evidence presented here. Medical records, financial documents, witness testimony, behavioral observations. The Carters' evidence is more thorough than most petitions I granted guardianship against. If anything, this case demonstrates exceptional competence in the face of extraordinary pressure." Patterson returned to his seat without further questions. Lila addressed the judge. "Your Honor, the defense rests." Judge Morrison removed his glasses, set them on the bench. He studied the papers before him for what felt like an eternity, probably only 60 seconds, but every heartbeat counted double. "I've reviewed all submitted evidence," he finally said. "Medical records spanning 12 years, financial documents showing consistent bill payment, tax filing, and account management, testimony from neighbors, medical professionals, and service providers. And I've observed Mr. and Mrs. Carter directly during these proceedings." He looked at Emma and David. "I understand your concern for your parents. Aging is frightening, for the children as much as the parents. But concern doesn't constitute incapacity." Then he turned to Henry and me. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter, you've demonstrated through extensive documentation and credible testimony that you possess the capacity to manage your own affairs. You understand your health conditions, make informed medical decisions, maintain your finances responsibly, and live independently with appropriate support systems. My chest tightened. Henry's hand gripped mine harder. The petition for guardianship is denied. The words hung in the air like the first warm breeze after a long winter. Denied. We'd won. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat there, letting the reality sink in slowly, the way morning light fills a room inch. Henry exhaled beside me, a sound like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. Judge Morrison continued. I'm also ordering that the petitioners cover court costs and reasonable legal expenses incurred by the respondents in defending against this petition. Lila leaned close. That means they pay for our work, and it sends a message that frivolous guardianship petitions have consequences. Court is adjourned, Judge Morrison said, and brought down his gavel with a sharp crack that felt like punctuation. Not an ending, but a statement. This is finished. People started gathering papers, murmuring. Lila hugged me quickly, professionally, then shook Henry's hand. You did it? Both of you. We couldn't have done it without you, Henry said quietly. Across the aisle, Emma stood frozen, staring at the table. David gathered documents with jerky, angry movements. Patterson spoke to them in low tones, probably explaining appeals, next steps, all the ways they could keep fighting if they wanted. But Emma looked over at me then, just for a second. Her face was unreadable, not angry, not apologetic, just lost. Like she'd expected a different ending and didn't know what to do with this one. I wanted to say something. I wanted to tell her that we could fix this, that families heal, that we didn't have to stay broken. But I didn't know if that was true yet, and I was too tired to pretend. Instead, I stood slowly, Henry rising beside me. We walked toward the courtroom exit together, past the gallery where our neighbors waited with quiet smiles, past the bailiff who nodded respectfully, past our children who stood silent and still. The hallway outside felt brighter than it should have. Lila walked with us to the elevator, explaining next steps, documentation we'd receive, how the ruling would be filed, what it meant legally. What about them? I asked, nodding back toward the courtroom. Emma and David? Lila's expression softened. That's up to you. The courts decided competence, not family dynamics. Those take longer to resolve. The elevator doors opened. Wiedecha Sophia stepped inside. Do you think they'll ever understand? Henry asked as we descended. I thought about Emma's face, that lost expression, about David's rigid shoulders, about all the years of phone calls and visits that had somehow calcified into mistrust. I don't know, I admitted. But at least now they can't take our choices away while they figure it out. The doors opened to the courthouse lobby. Afternoon sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting long shadows across marble floors. We walked out into it together, competent, independent, and finally heard. The house smelled like lemon polish and fresh coffee when we got back from the courthouse. I'd cleaned obsessively the night before, needing something to do with my hands while my mind raced through every possible outcome. Now, standing in our living room with the late afternoon sun slanting through the windows, all that nervous energy felt like it belonged to someone else. Henry set his briefcase on the dining table, the same table where we'd spread out months of documents, receipts, medical records, where Lila had sat with us night after night, organizing our lives into evidence. I should call Ruth, I said. Let her know. She probably already knows. Henry smiled slightly. She was texting someone in the gallery, probably the whole neighborhood by now. He was right. My phone buzzed before I could reach for it, Ruth's name flashing across the screen. "Well?" she demanded when I answered. "Denied. The petition was denied." Her whoop was so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "I'm coming over, don't you dare tell me you're tired, we're celebrating." She hung up before I could protest. Not that I would have. After weeks of isolation, of feeling like Henry and I were fighting alone, the thought of friends in our home again felt like oxygen. Within an hour, our kitchen was full. Ruth brought wine and a casserole. Tom, from 3 doors down, arrived with flowers from his garden, dahlias, bright and ridiculous and perfect. Even Mrs. Chen, who rarely left her house since her husband passed, came over with homemade dumplings and sat at our table like she belonged there. Maybe she did. Maybe they all did. Lila showed up last, still in her court clothes, but with her hair pulled loose. She'd stopped being our paralegal somewhere along the way and become something else. Family, but the kind you choose. The kind built on trust and shared purpose instead of obligation. "I can't stay long," she said, accepting the glass of wine Ruth pressed into her hand. "But I wanted to make sure you two were okay." "More than okay," Henry said quietly. He stood by the counter, surrounded by neighbors who'd testified for us, who'd documented our competence when our own children couldn't see it. "Thanks to you." "Thanks to yourselves," Lila corrected. "I just helped organize what was already there." The evening stretched into twilight. People ate and talked and laughed, and slowly, the weight I'd been carrying for months began to lift. Not completely. I still thought about Emma's lost expression in the courtroom, about David's rigid silence. Those wounds would take time if they healed at all. But sitting in our home, surrounded by people who'd chosen to stand beside of us, I felt something shift. We didn't need our children's approval to be competent. We didn't need their permission to live our lives. You ever notice how the absence of something can be louder than its presence? For weeks, our house had felt hollow, every room echoing with what our children thought we couldn't do. Now it felt full again, but different, fuller somehow with people who saw us clearly. Ruth squeezed my shoulder on her way to the door. "Same time next week? Regular dinner?" "Regular dinner," I agreed. Just like that, a new ritual was born. By 9 o'clock, everyone had gone home. Lila hugged us both, promised to stop by next week to finalize paperwork, then disappeared into the evening. Henry and I stood in our quiet kitchen, surrounded by empty casserole dishes and wine glasses. "Garden?" he asked. I nodded. We walked outside together into the cool evening air. Henry's tomatoes were coming in, heavy on the vine. The roses I'd neglected during the worst of it had somehow kept blooming anyway. Resilient things, tougher than they looked. Henry settled onto the bench we'd placed under the oak tree last summer. I sat beside him, close enough that our shoulders touched. The sky was deepening to purple, stars just beginning to appear. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. A car passed. Ordinary sounds of an ordinary evening. "Think they'll come around?" Henry asked quietly. "Emma and David?" I thought about it. Really thought, instead of just hoping or fearing. Maybe, maybe not. But we'll be okay either way. And I meant it. For the first time in months, I meant it completely. Henry reached for my hand, his fingers warm and familiar. We sat there in our garden, in the home we'd defended, in the life we'd reclaimed. Not because a court said we could, because we'd proven, to ourselves, to each other, that we never needed permission in the first place.